Hello and welcome to V News Daily Bulletin. Coming up next, we have your top stories. Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc visits Vĩnh Long province. Vietnam's economy sees recovery momentum in second quarter. Textile industry looks to 2020 and beyond. Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc on June 11th paid a working visit to Mekong Delta province of Vĩnh Long. We have more in the following report. At a meeting with provincial leaders, Prime Minister Phúc highly valued socio-economic achievements the province has reaped, praising their solidarity and unity in resolving the severe consequences of drought and saltwater intrusion during the first half of 2016. The Prime Minister urged Vĩnh Long province to take drastic measures to improve business environment along with administrative reform in a hope to facilitate startup enterprises. In a bid to ensure stable production, the province asked the government as well as relevant ministries and branches to consider investments for urgent irrigation works in coping with natural disasters caused by drought and saltwater intrusion. Also on the same day, Prime Minister Phúc made a call at Vĩnh Long Footwear Company situated at Hòa Phú Industrial Park. He spoke highly of operation outcomes of the foreign invested firm over the last 10 years in Vietnam, asking the provincial authorities to create favorable conditions for enterprises, including the company, to strengthen their production and business activities. The Prime Minister said businesses need to take good preparation for successful international integration, particularly after a host of new generation free trade agreements, such as the TPP agreement, take effect. Earlier, Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc offered incense to late Chairman of the Council of Ministers Phạm Hùng on the occasion of his 104th birthday, and late Prime Minister Võ Văn Kiệt to commemorate his 8th death anniversary. As part of his visit to Indonesia from June 9 to 11, Minister of Public Security Senior Lieutenant General Tô Lâm had a courtesy meeting with Vice President Yusuf Kala. At their meeting on June 10th, Minister Tô Lâm asked the Vice President to create conditions for cooperation in security between Indonesian agencies and Vietnamese counterparts in the interest of the two countries' people and for regional and global stability. The minister affirmed Vietnam always treasures the friendship and collaboration with other regional countries and ASEAN member nations, including Indonesia. For his part, Vice President Yusuf Kala expressed his delight at the developments of the long-standing friendship between Vietnam and Indonesia, affirming that Minister Tô Lâm visit will help deepen the bilateral strategic partnership. During the trip, Minister Tô Lâm also visited the Vietnamese embassy in Jakarta. Despite a gloom in the Purchasing Managers Index in the region, Vietnam's index continued to expand, reaching a 10-month high of 52.7 in May from 52.3 in the previous month.
According to the latest report on the prospects of Vietnam's market released by the Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corporation, economic indicators in the second quarter of this year showed a strong recovery of the national economy. The number of new orders rose sharply, indicating that manufacturing operations are likely to grow in June. The index of industrial production and exports also recorded consistent growth in the period. The lingering El Nino will likely continue to affect agricultural output, the report said. However, it also forecast that the strong development of manufacturing industries and services will lift the GDP growth in this quarter to 6.1%. HSBC also kept its GDP forecast in the whole year of 2016 unchanged at 6.3%. The bank put forward medium-term solutions on financial reform in Vietnam, including broadening the base of profit and adjusting accounting methods in line with international standards. administrative measures to restrain tax evasion, the announcement of tax fraud cases, and the simplification of the value-added tax refund process will be helpful solutions, the report stated.
Experts have forecast credit would increase faster in the next few months thanks to new regulations on lending. The following report will bring more details.
This year, the government is targeting a credit growth between 18 and 20%. However, lending rose only 4% by the end of April and then slipped back to about 3.8% by the middle of May. However, after the issuance of new lending regulations recently, experts predicted that lending in both Vietnam dong and US dollar will receive a boost in the next few months. On May 30th, the State Bank of Vietnam issued a circular which raises the risk index of receivable lending for real estate and securities from the current 150% to only 200%, lower than the cap of 250% as proposed earlier by the bank. The same day, the central bank issued another circular under which, from June 1st, companies who have demands for short-term loans in foreign currency can borrow from banks to satisfy their short-term capital needs. However, analysts also anticipated that the credit growth this year would be lower than the government's plan, fluctuating between 15% and 17%, as banks would be more careful with lending related to the areas with high-risk loans, such as real estate. Under a report released recently, the Institute for Economics and Policy Research also recommended to the central bank that it control credit growth and quality. It also suggested to the central bank to avoid maintaining a loose monetary policy for too long, which led to the formation of asset bubbles. Concerning the return of high inflation, the Institute said that a credit growth target of 18% in 2016 is too high, suggesting that the central bank should consider a credit growth target for 2016 at 15% with credit flows aimed at production areas.
The Electricity of Vietnam Group has announced that the national power system is able to meet additional power demands this month. More in the following report.
The group said that the maximum load capacity is close to 28,538 megawatts, while the power consumption in June is estimated at 540 million kilowatt-hour per day. The group has set objectives of exploiting hydropower plants in line with ensuring sufficient water for production in the lower parts of rivers. It will also make full use of gas turbines and coal-fired thermal power, as well as mobilize power from Ô Môn and Cà Mau oil field plants in the southern region if necessary. The group has asked its subsidiary companies to ensure a sufficient power supply to serve the national high school graduation examination period, as well as implement anti-flooding plans to ensure power during the storm season this year. In the first 5 months of this year, the total electricity output was estimated at 72.6 billion kilowatt-hour, up 13.1% against the same period last year. In May alone, the electricity output was 16.52 billion kilowatt-hour.
The domestic garment and textile industry wants to revise a development plan to 2020 with vision for 2030 to match the progress of the country. We have more in the following report. Under a plan approved in 2014, Vietnam's garment exports are set at between 20 and 25 billion US dollars by 2020. However, the garment sector already earned an export turnover of 27.5 billion US dollars last year. All the garment and textile businesses have actively taken advantage of opportunities through trade agreements such as the Trans-Pacific Partnership, Vietnam-Korea Free Trade Agreement, and Vietnam-EU Free Trade Agreement. With the current growth, the sector has set export turnover at between 40 and 50 billion US dollars by 2020, instead of targets set in the current plan. Apart from key export products, Vietnam also exports various kinds of fiber with an export turnover of over 3 billion US dollars annually, and different types of fabric with a turnover of $1 billion per year. With its advantages in land and climate conditions, the Central Highlands province of Lâm Đồng is leading the country in developing high-tech agricultural production in the context of increasing demand for quality agri-products.
Among 21 recognized high-tech agricultural companies in the country, 5 are based in Lâm Đồng. The Provincial People's Committee said the locality has created Vietnam's largest dedicated areas for growing vegetables, flour, tea, and the second largest dedicated area for coffee. The province has more than 43,000 hectares of production using high technology, equal to 64% of cultivable land. The province's high-tech agricultural exports make up 30% of the sector's total production value and 80% of the province's total export value. The province's goal is to become a leading province in terms of high-tech agriculture in Southeast Asia.
The Prime Minister has just approved a program to enhance the teaching of the Vietnamese language among ethnic minority children for the next 5 years.
Under the project, communication work will be promoted to raise the awareness of the importance of the program among all stakeholders, including local authorities, teaching, managing staff, and parents. School materials, documents, and media in Vietnamese will be introduced, while training courses will be organized to help improve Vietnamese learning at community level. Pilot projects will be implemented in some areas before being carried out nationwide. By 2020, the program's target is to improve Vietnamese language skills for all children from ethnic minority groups at kindergartens and primary schools in 42 provinces and central cities across the nation.
Experts are urging the building of a master plan on preserving marine biodiversity in its true sense to improve the efficiency of the work in the country.
At present, around 100 species under threat have been included in Vietnam's Red Book and the Red List on endangered species that need urgent protection. According to the experts, in order to save endangered species, the planning to preserve marine biodiversity must be implemented ahead of development activities.
And that has concluded our news bulletin. Thanks for watching. For more information, please log on to our website at www.vietnamplus.vn. We'll see you soon.